And now, Radio Free UK bring you Alan Taylor-Shearer with an update on his podcast, Alan's Antics. He gives us a rundown on what he's been covering this week. If you like what you hear, do click through and see his full content.
This week on Alan's Antics. So the UK has had its Brexit vote, and we overwhelmingly decided that we were going to leave the EU. Not Europe, we're still going to be part of Europe, and we'll still get on with our European neighbours, France, Germany, Belgium, etc. I'm going to read you something from the FT, but I'm also going to play you something that came from Press TV. Slovakia says that Europe will make Brexit very painful for the UK. Europe will make Brexit very painful and ensure Britain is worse off outside the EU, Slovakia's Premier has said, as he dismissed the UK's confidence about divorce talks as bluff. Robert Fico gave voice to the truculent mood in Eastern Europe over Britain's post-Brexit privileges, saying Britain would not be allowed to make EU workers second-class citizens while continuing to enjoy the benefits of Europe's single market. Quote, "It will be very difficult for the UK. Very difficult," end quote. Well, Mr. Fico, we're not in shock. We've made our mind up, we made our decision, we made it clear to our government and the world, we are going to leave, we are going to get out of your fascist regime, your Politburo, your dictatorship, we are going to get out, and you can try and make it as painful as you like, but we can take it. You see, because we're British, and come and have a go, if you think you're hard enough. Anyway, here's what Press TV had to say.
And finally, Slovakia, which holds the rotating presidency of the European Union, says that the bloc will make the Brexit, quote, very painful for the UK. The Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico rejected the British Premier's confident tone on what she has called making a success out of the Brexit. Fico said that leaving the EU will cause pain to the UK even if Britain is the fifth largest economy in the world. Fico's remarks come following the first EU summit without Britain in decades, which was held on Friday. At the summit, the leaders of the member states pledged to draw a new vision for the EU in 6 months to restore faith in the bloc.
That was courtesy of Press TV. And where was the BBC and Sky and all the other prostitutes when Slovakia's Premier was saying that things are going to be very painful for the UK? Yes, of course. They were keeping that bit quiet, weren't they? So there I was, minding my own business, when it was brought to my attention that the news quiz had done a piece on Hillary Clinton and whether she was ill or not. A question that even a 5-year-old could answer in the affirmative. However, it appears that this lot have been told to turn it down a bit because they don't want to fall foul of the Clintons. Well, the BBC doesn't want to fall foul of the Clintons because you tend to end up dead if you fall foul of the Clintons. Anyway, let's hear this so-called comedy and see what you think for yourself.
Polly, whose campaign stumbled this week?
Is this the story about Hillary Clinton, who was filmed leaving a 9/11 commemoration ceremony? She was filmed sort of tripping as she got into the car. And a lot of people have a conspiracy theory that she is quite ill and covering it up. And this was seen as a sign that she was indeed poorly, and this has been very bad for her ratings, which I think is sort of unfair, because I think if you filmed me 24 hours a day, you would find me doing loads of stuff. Like this morning, I slammed my fringe in my car door. So it's not fair. That I feel sorry for all these politicians who are constantly being monitored, and anything that they do, literally anything, if they have the slightest sniffle or whatever, it's suddenly seen as a weakness, like real human beings aren't allowed to be ill. And of course Donald Trump jumped on this, and the polls have sort of said, well, we don't know if she's telling the truth about her pneumonia and stuff. And I feel sorry for her, because, I mean, who hasn't covered up being ill at some point in their life or told a small lie? I mean, she's got a history of this. Everyone was worried about her emails and the fact that she said that she was under fire when she visited Bosnia and all these things. But, I mean, I've told lies in the past that I've forgotten about and have come back to haunt me. Like, I met a saxophonist at a dinner party, and we were having a lovely chat about musical instruments, and my husband joined in and said, oh, my gosh, Holly is grade 8 trumpet, and I'm not grade 8 trumpet. I must have said that at some point when we were going out to impress him.
So does Hillary play the trumpet?
No, Hillary doesn't play the trumpet, although maybe she does and she's lying to us.
Don't let them know about the trumpet, Hillary.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories on the internet that I got sucked into, that she's got terrible brain damage from various things and that she's actually sort of died and they've replaced her with a double and all this kind of... It's amazing how many conspiracy theories are going around about her. Donald Trump then came out and did that passive-aggressive thing of saying, I hope she pulls through and all this stuff, as though she's much more ill than she is. And then there was a reminder that he'd published a letter from his gastroenterologist where they'd used incredible phrases like, test results are astonishingly excellent. As though someone's doctor would describe, oh my God, your STD results are astonishingly excellent. And then the letter went on, if elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever elected to presidency.
Is that the guy who began the letter, to whom it might concern?
Yeah.
So the actual beginning was actually illiterate, so it's clearly written by Trump.
They interviewed that doctor after that letter because it's full of misspellings, it's got links that doesn't work, and he said, I wrote the letter in 2 minutes while the car was waiting outside, and I put in that he will be the most astonishingly excellent health as a joke. That he's healthy, but yet the spin that they can put on it is that Hillary Clinton, who is a woman, shouldn't we be congratulating her for working through pneumonia to become President of the United States? It's the first time the Republicans have cared about women's health in decades.
I'm not sure that people genuinely believe Trump. I think they've kind of stopped caring. I mean, if the polls are correct, 50% of Americans think that Hillary Clinton is less trustworthy than a man who lies on an hourly basis. And it's this move into what the commentators are calling the post-factual world. And I think that the reality is that the Democrats would be better off dumping Hillary. I think the Democrats should choose a candidate who is a fictional character. Like Bert from Sesame Street. No, seriously, because Fox News would have a lot of trouble politically assassinating on a daily basis Bert from Sesame Street. The Democrats need to choose a candidate who is fictional, like the Republicans have.
Inalienably, this is the news that Hillary Clinton this week collapsed at a memorial service for the victims of 9/11, raising fears that the presidential contest could be occurring between a woman whose body has stopped working and a man whose mind has, to all intents and purposes, never started.
So, there you have it. Left-wing comedy at its finest. Funny, wasn't it? You know, I remember when the BBC used to do comedy. Seems to have dropped the ball a little recently. I didn't find any of that funny at all. Whilst I wouldn't wish ill on anyone, whatever their political leanings, to assume that anybody who says anything against Hillary is either mad or a conspiracy theorist is just what they were implying through that entire programme. That was just one short little clip of it. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? The caring left wing. I heard nothing caring there. Nothing about the real details of the policies, the real details of what would happen to America if this vile woman became president. I say vile because of her past and because of her political thoughts, views and policies, and nothing to do with her physical illness. That's not something that anybody should have to go through, and no child should have to witness their parent in that situation. However, it doesn't excuse the fact that Hillary's illness is being hidden and is being played down by left-wing, sycophantic, suck-up media like the BBC. 80% of Swedish police consider quitting over migrant danger. Sergeant Larsson isn't convinced the government, who have a dubious history of trying to cover up migrant crime, is really trying to tackle the root of the problem, warning, quote, if they choose not to make a real commitment now, it's going to end in disaster. And it's just going to spread, and it's going to come here. And what are you going to do when it's on your doorstep? From thesun.co.uk. Now, you won't hear me say that very often, but this is a serious story. No tits and bums in this one. Domestic violence against men soars to record levels as number of cases treble in the past decade. One of the great tragedies of male victim domestic violence is that there are very few safe houses for men who are seeking refuge with their children, while there are over 9,000 for women. This is a problem which needs to be urgently addressed. And whilst I have not been the victim of domestic violence, I know people who have, and I can tell you that the impact on a man to be beaten to such an extent by his partner, by the woman he's supposed to love and care for, is incredibly, incredibly damaging. So next time you hear about domestic violence, don't just automatically assume that it was a man slapping a woman. You'll probably find it was the other way round. But the police were unwilling to help because, well, he should just man up, shouldn't we, and grow a pair? Well, that was just a little snapshot of the week on Alan's Antics on RadioFreeUK.org. To hear the full recordings and a whole lot more, go to RadioFreeUK.org. And